The world of League of Legends have been marked by war and conflict since the beginning of time. But there's one place where peace is considered the highest good, and harmony with nature and magic prevails above all else. In this video we'd learn more about the history of the magical archipelago, also known as the First Lands. This is the history of Ionia. The birth of the Vastaya. Many thousands of years ago, humans lived in harmony with nature and its magical currents. One fateful day, titans descended from the sky and began to wage war against the native people. Enlightened humans who had a close connection to the spirit realm channeled the magic from the other side of the veil and became the Vastaya Shirei. With the powers they gained, they were able to fight the titans and save the inhabitants of the First Lands. These Vastaya Shirei, despite their newly acquired immortality and magical abilities, choose to live among mortal humans. Over generations, their genes intermingled and their descendants would be known as the Vastaya. These chimerical beings began to settle in diverse locations and adapted various animalistic forms. Over the millennia, Vastayan tribes settled throughout all of Runeterra. The fall of the God Willow. A group of Vastaya Shirei decided to retreat to a grove they called Umikayalan, which translates to the heart of the world. In the middle of the forest grew a giant magical tree known as the God Willow, whose magic was incredibly important to both humans and Vastaya. Many thousands of years ago, a ruthless and brutal conqueror of the Freljord and his warriors reached the grove. The man named Ivan the Cruel began to fight the forest's protectors, and to break their will to fight, he decided to cut down the God Willow. When the tree fell, so did the conqueror with it. While all life and nature itself mourned the fall of the God Willow, Ivan's spirit sank into thought and found inspiration in the beauty of growth and life. He was reborn as Ivan the Green Father. As a magical wood creature, he now wandered the land with the goal of protecting all life and teaching everyone to appreciate all existence. When the God Willow fell, its seeds spread, and from them grew other magical trees like the Dreaming Tree. From the stump of the felled tree, a new sprout slowly started growing, protected by a group of powerful Vastaya and spirits. Ionia and the Darkin. As Shurima's corrupted immortal god warriors, known as the Darkin, waged their internal war and sought domination over the continents of Shurima and Valoran, a warrior queen in golden armor played a crucial role. Under her leadership, a group of mages and Vastaya successfully sealed the Darkin Varus within his bow. Even though she knew the corrupting power of Darkin weapons, she decided to take up the bow and use it in battle to achieve an even more significant victory. After the war, she thawed out the First Land and ordered her followers to seal her monstrously disfigured body along with the bow in a magical, almost bottomless and lightless well beneath the mountain temple of the village palace with the help of the magic of Ionia and the rituals of the temple guardians. Some Darkin disguised themselves as great spirits and gathered followers under their lead, who hoped for influence and power by praising these false Kanmei. Their dark influence should quickly corrupt the land, and the First Lands fell into chaos. The Shrine Maiden of the Temple of Twilight sought help by the temple's patron, and with his help the false Kanmei could be banished. However, after the battles, the Maiden and the Spirit went into exile into the Spirit Realm, together with their entire temple, according to the words of the Spirit, for the protection of all. The Golden Demon. While wars and conflict have raged in Runeterra throughout the millennia of world history, life in Ionia was characterized by peace. People lived in harmony with nature and its magic, acting according to principles of peace and balance in all things. Thus, at most, minor disputes arose between individual settlements, orders, or sects. One of these orders was the Kinku, whose task was to maintain the balance between the spirit and the material realm without favoring either side. and so it was part of their task to monitor, understand, and act on the activities of demons. So it came that a few years ago the Kinku began tracking down the so-called Golden Demon in the Southern Mountains, who had troubled the communities of these areas for some time. Individual hikers and even entire farms were grotesquely disfigured and slaughtered. The leader of the Kinku, Grandmaster Kusho, his son Shen, and his master student Zed set out to find the demon, only to discover that it was the work of a simple human man who called himself Kadar Jin. When the three Kinku confronted the serial killer, Zed was ready to take his life, but Kusho insisted on imprisonment. Shen and Zed agreed that this fate was unworthy of his actions, but Shen gave in to his father's request, and so Zed grew bitter and resentful. The invasion by Noxus. While the First Lands lived in peace, Runeterra had been at war for centuries. Noxus united entire settlements and communities under his control and now considered adding Ionia to his empire. The warlike empire saw the land's peacefulness as a weakness and in this an opportunity. Noxian spies began trading with locals, visiting provinces and identifying weak points in the population and important targets. After long and extensive planning, the invasion finally began in the province of Navori. Many villages and settlements were raided and destroyed. Thousands of Ionians died in the attacks and magical artifacts were stolen. The aggression forced the religious leader Karma, otherwise known for her teachings of peace and charity, to fight back. A resistance was formed that would not rest until Ionia was free again. The Kinku also heard of the Noxian army's actions, but refused to intervene as this was not their fight. Zed's bitterness and anger grew. He joined a resistance called the Navori Brotherhood and quickly realized that his abilities would never live up to his own standards. He invaded his former home and mastered dark shadow magic, trained his followers in this art and founded the Yanlei, the Order of Shadows, to ruthlessly combat all attackers and opponents, whether Noxian or not. The village of Palace was also faced with an invasion. The hunters couple Valmar and Kai stood up to the attackers. Kai was seriously wounded and taken to temple by his partner. Hoping that the magic of the well could save his lover, Valmar stepped into the water with him. Varus, the darkened sealed at the bottom, seized opportunity and tried to take over the dying hunter. Valmar would not allow this and tried to prevent the process. Kai's body became too weak for the Darkin, and so Varus took over Kai's soul and Valmar's body. A being half human, half Darkin stepped out of the well, in whose spirit the souls of the Hunters couple and the Darkin are in constant conflict. The most important battle, however, would take place at the Placidium of Navori. The Noxian general Jericho Swain captured the Placidium's protectors in hope of luring the approaching reinforcements into a trap. A young girl named Irelia confronted the general and unleashed the ancient magic of the Blade Dance, thus unleashing the magic of the First Lands itself. She succeeded in eliminating a dozen of Swain's men before finally bringing down Jericho himself and severing his left arm. Swain's fall and retreat marked a turning point in the conflict, and Irelia began to lead the growing resistance. After 3 years of brutal fighting, Jericho Swain, who had overthrown the government back in Noxus, declared retreat from the First Lands. Ionia today. Even though the war in Ionia has ended, certain areas of Ionia remain occupied by Noxian troops, causing unrest among the people. Many of the military organizations that were founded now find themselves in an unstable Ionia and are seeking reform to prepare the First Lands for further conflict, while these might also come from the unrest inside. The Order of Shadows extracts magic from nature to strengthen itself, and the Kinku have spread across Ionia to continue fulfilling their mission. However, this is proving increasingly difficult, as the imbalance in the land has also disrupted the connection to the spirit realm. The normally annual Spirit Blossom Festival was cancelled for many years because the so-called Spirit Blossoms no longer bloomed, and many saw this as a sign of disruption of the balance. Now, years after the fighting and suffering, however, peace seems to have returned. The spirit trees are in never-seen bloom. What at first glance appears to be a dream-like miracle, however, has a dark undertone, as spirit blossoms only bloom in the presence of deceased souls, and thus each beautiful, delicate blossom represents a soul on the other side that met its end in recent years. But something feels different as the magic of the land blooms wilder than before and the Temple of Twilight reappeared from his exile, while the land appears to be healing. A fire blazes within that could lead to renewed danger and destabilization at any moment. While internal organizations seek to reform Ionia's policies and principles, whether violent or peaceful, some parties overseas have already cast their eyes on the archipelago's secrets. What do you think of Ionia's peaceful past and the terrible changes that were forced upon its people? Do you think the First Lands will ever be what they once were, or must the land now adapt to the circumstances of this world? Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments, and please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. On my channel you will find more videos about the oldest stories in League of Legends and an overview of the most important events in Runeterra. If you don't want to miss anything, hit subscribe and ring the bell. Thank you for your attention and interest in the world of League of Legends, and maybe I'll see you in the next video.